Hello, friends. My name is Laura Green. I'm a photographer, but today I want to tell you not about beautiful shots of nature, but about something that changed my life. This story is personal, very deep. And, honestly, I thought for a long time about whether I should share it. But if you're watching this video now, then we're here for a reason. Perhaps you, too, are searching for something greater. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like something is missing in your life? Like you're moving forward, doing the right things, achieving success, but there's still an emptiness inside? I felt that. It seemed like I was living my dream, traveling, capturing breathtaking landscapes, sharing the beauty of the world through my photos. But every time I returned home, I was overwhelmed by a sense of loneliness and an unclear longing. One day, during a conversation with a friend, I heard about fasting. She said, "Laura, if you want to understand yourself and God more deeply, try fasting. It could be your path to answers." I smiled but doubted her words internally. I'm a photographer, not a nun. How could fasting possibly help me? But her words stayed in my heart, and a couple of weeks later, I decided to try. You know, friends, starting something new is always scary. But I decided, 7 days without food, only water and prayers. How hard could it be? I was naive. By the evening of the first day, I started feeling dizzy, my thoughts were scattered, and suddenly the fridge became the most appealing place in the house. The second day was even worse. My inner voice seemed to go on strike. Laura, why are you doing this? You have work, projects, photo shoots. Why waste time on something so silly? And, honestly, at one point I almost gave up. I sat on the floor in my studio, looking at the photos I was preparing for clients, and thought, maybe this really is nonsense? Maybe I'm just creating problems where there are none? But then I remembered my friend's words. Fasting isn't just about giving up food. It's an invitation for God to act in your life. I decided to keep going. On the third day, I prayed as best as I could, sincerely, honestly, even through tears. And then something happened that I will never forget. You know, friends, there are moments that are impossible to forget. They leave such a vivid imprint on your heart that they feel even more real than life itself. What happened to me was one of those moments. It all began with silence. But it wasn't ordinary silence, it was as if the world had stopped. The sound of cars passing by the window disappeared. Even the old clock in the corner of the room, which usually ticked, seemed to pause. And the strangest thing was that my own thoughts, which usually buzzed like a swarm of bees, suddenly quieted. In this complete, almost tangible silence, I suddenly felt warmth. It didn't touch my body, but it went deeper, into the very core of my being. This warmth wasn't burning or frightening. It was like a gentle embrace after a long separation, like coming home. And then, I saw light. It appeared suddenly, filling the entire space around me. But it wasn't ordinary light. It was so bright that it seemed like it should blind me, but instead, I could look at it without fear. This light was alive. I felt love, peace, and incredible strength radiating from it. And then I heard a voice. It wasn't loud, but it was so clear, as if it was speaking directly to my heart. The voice was warm, deep, and enveloping, as if every note carried the answer to all my questions. Laura, through fasting, you have opened the door to the spiritual world. These words washed over me like a wave. I felt both awe and joy at the same time. Friends, it was a moment when my whole being realized that I was standing on the threshold of something great, something I hadn't even dared to dream of. And then, right before me, it was as if a heavy curtain was pulled aside. Everything that had seemed hidden became visible. I saw the spiritual world. It was real, even more real than everything I had known up until that moment. Those few seconds, or minutes, I still don't know how much time had passed, changed me forever. It was a fear of the unknown and, at the same time, a thrill from the realization that I was not alone. Friends, believe me, sometimes, to see the truth, you just need to dare to look beyond the veil. And what you discover there can change your life forever. Friends, I must confess, what I saw was like a revelation. It's impossible to fully explain, but I'll try to convey at least a small part of what I experienced. I saw two worlds. Our familiar, physical world, full of noise, hustle, constant worries, and anxieties. We often get so caught up in it that we fail to notice anything beyond. But there was another world, a spiritual one, unseen yet incredibly real. This spiritual world was full of motion. I saw how a real battle was taking place within it. The forces of light, angels, were protecting people. They appeared as blazing light, like living fire, filled with power and might. Every step they took was confident, and their presence radiated peace and hope. But there was also darkness. It surrounded people like thick black smoke, enveloping them with doubts, fears, and despair. It was terrifying. I saw how these dark forces whispered lies to people, convincing them that they were worthless, that there was no way out. However, there was something that struck me to my core: the darkness was not omnipotent. It only seemed powerful. As soon as a person began to pray or fast sincerely, something incredible happened. Light emanated from the person. This light pierced through the darkness, breaking the chains it tried to impose. It was like flashes of bright fire, burning away all the darkness completely. Prayers and fasting amplified this light. The more heartfelt the prayer, the stronger the fire became. At that moment, Jesus spoke to me again. His voice was so clear, as if it went straight to my heart. "Laura, fasting makes your prayer powerful. It is a weapon that breaks down the walls of evil and opens the way for my light." These words became a revelation to me. I realized that we often underestimate the power of our prayers, especially when they are combined with fasting. They're not just words. They're a fire that transforms everything around us, that breaks barriers and brings freedom. Friends, what I saw will forever remain in my heart. This spiritual world, this unseen battle, it's all real. And even without realizing it, we are all part of it. But we have power. We have light that can overcome the darkness. And this knowledge gave me new hope and confidence. Believe me, every prayer you say, every day you fast, it's not just an effort. It's a true weapon of light that opens doors to something greater. When it all ended, I suddenly felt the world around me regain its usual form. I was sitting on the floor in my room, and the first thing I felt was silence. Not the incredible silence from before, but ordinary, everyday silence. Yet it felt different now. I looked at my hands, at the light streaming through the window, and realized I had just experienced something incredible, something unforgettable. My body was tired, almost drained, but my soul felt as if it was soaring. For the first time in a long time, I felt such lightness, such freedom, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. And then I understood. Fasting is not just about giving up food. It's not just a religious practice. It's something much deeper. It's a powerful spiritual act that changes you from within. Fasting opens the door to God, helping to cleanse the heart of everything unnecessary, of everything that clouded your vision. And you know what's most amazing? I began to see this world differently. Now, when I pick up my camera, I'm no longer just looking for beautiful landscapes. I see the Creator's design in every frame. I see His greatness in every little thing, in the way sunlight dances on leaves, in the trails raindrops leave on glass, in the whisper of the wind through the trees. Every photograph I take now is more than just art. It's gratitude. It's my testimony that God's presence is everywhere if we only allow ourselves to notice it. And, friends, this experience changed me forever. I realized that sometimes we just need to take a step of faith, to let go of the familiar, in order to see something greater. Fasting is not a trial. It's an invitation to discover a light that can transform both us and our world. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. I hope it inspired you just as much as that moment inspired me when it all began.